everyone, my name is Diana Gugliotta. I'm the Senior Manager of Public Affairs at AAA Northeast, and I am joined today by Dave Hempy, who is our Managing Director of Branch Operations here at AAA Northeast, and he is responsible for the oversight of all of our DMV programs. Very important job. So a warm welcome to all of you members who are joining. We thank you. And I'm sure that you all realize that registry services are among the most utilized service benefit of your AAA membership. Today, we want to speak to our members specifically in Rhode Island about Real ID. And I'm sure you've heard about it, but we want you to feel free to ask questions as we go along. And I'd love to just provide our viewers a little bit of context about Real ID and really the genesis of it. We do get quite a few questions about that. So unfortunately, after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, the Real ID Act was passed by Congress in response to the fact that the hijackers did have valid driver's licenses, and that's how they gained access. So there was a recommendation from the 9/11 Commission that the federal government should set security standards for all states to follow. And, states must meet those minimum requirements for consistency in the documents that we present in obtaining government issued identification. So here we are almost 20 years later after 9/11, and we have a deadline approaching. So we know that COVID actually pushed off the we were anticipating of October 1st of last year. So we are now looking at October 1st of 2021. And Dave, I know you'll have a lot of advice for our members on this. Let's start out probably by, just some general information. What is Real ID?
Sure. Well, thank you, Diana. In Rhode Island, the Department of Motor Vehicles began offering Real ID compliant licenses and ID cards on December 3rd of 2018. Now, these cards can be used for boarding a domestic flight or entering certain federal buildings and nuclear power plants. In Rhode Island, both the DMV and AAA branches can process a Real ID.
Very, very, very handy. I know our members definitely love that access. Yeah.
So in regards to Real ID, as you noted, beginning on October 1st, 2021, the federal government will require your driver's license, permit, ID card to be Real ID compliant to board a domestic flight within the United States, enter a military base, certain federal facilities, and nuclear power plants. There are other acceptable credentials options, such as a valid US passport, a passport card, Department of Defense ID, and the DHS trusted traveler cards, such as Global Entry, Nexus, Sentry, and FAST. There are even more options available, but these are the most common ones. For a complete list, if you visit www.dhs.gov, that'll give you the complete list of acceptable documents. And it's important to note, because we get this question all the time, a Real ID is not required to drive any motor vehicle or to vote. This is specifically new requirements underneath the federal government that will take place on October 1st of 2021.
Right.
So a Real ID actually doesn't replace your driver's license. It's actually an endorsement of an existing license or state ID. By upgrading your existing license to a Real ID, you can use that license to board a domestic flight, enter the federal buildings or the nuclear power packs when the act takes effect. Think about it, by doing the upgrade on your license or state ID, you don't need to carry any additional ID documentation underneath the Real ID Act. Also, AAA encourages everyone who wants to get a Real ID not to wait until September or October 2021. Start gathering your documents now and avoid the last minute rush of visiting a registry office or a AAA branch.
I think that's great advice, especially for the fact that we've been so cooped up for the year. That deadline comes right before the holidays. There's going to be so many people really anxious to, fly out to visit family that they haven't been able to see, or friends that they haven't been able to see. So yeah, get organized early is definitely the best advice for that. And our members can schedule an appointment on AAA.com on our website. And all of our Rhode Island branches are able to perform this service, which is wonderful. So what are the guidelines, Dave, for scheduling those appointments in our branch offices?
Sure. It's very simple. So AAA members in Rhode Island can visit AAA.com/registry, and you will see the appointment listing by office. It provides dates and times over the next 2 weeks that you can make an appointment. You can also see the full listing of DMV services available at that same location. All of our branches follow the state COVID mandates with social distancing, face coverings, frequent cleaning, and limited capacity to keep you safe. So if you find right away that you don't see an appointment time slot that's open, just wait a little bit and they will open down the road. The reason why there aren't so many appointments available is we need to restrict the number of people in our offices to keep our employees safe and our members safe at the same time.
And I know we actually got a shout out by Governor Raimondo in Rhode Island for how well we run the branch offices. And, you know, it's always a friendly face there to greet you, look at your credentials to make sure you're bringing all the right information into the branch, which is really, really helpful. But
exactly.
So we are buttoned down with those COVID restrictions.
We are.
Take it very seriously. And one of the other great ways I think we can prepare is just by, if you have a printer at home, for example, to print off the DMV calls it the LI1 form, I think.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay,
LI1.
so that's basically the application for
Yes.
licensing and Real ID. So great idea just to be able to download that, print it out, fill that out before you come into a branch office. Actually, I know there are several additional documents that you talk about that, Dave,
Sure.
because you're definitely the expert.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So when I explain the requirements to our members, I usually break it down into 3 categories: proof of birth or citizenship, proof of residence, and Social Security. And you'll note I didn't say proof of Social Security, but I'll talk about that good news in just a moment. All documents we discuss today must be originals and unaltered. We cannot accept photocopies or laminated documents, with the sole exception of the Providence, Rhode Island issued short form birth certificate, which are laminated by the city of Providence. In fact, that's the one that I have. And this information goes for the state of Rhode Island and also for AAA. Unfortunately, many people have older documents that they made photocopies or possibly laminated because that's what their parents did. Documents cannot be used because it actually technically alters the original, and we need to see the original documents. So on the first requirement for proof of birth or citizenship, this is known as your identity document. So if you have a valid US passport that matches the name on your driver's license record or state issued ID, please bring that. At AAA, we call that the home run of identity documents, and my staff will love you for it. The reason why is it's already been vetted, it's been proved, and it's the easiest document for us to use when you're applying for a Real ID. Now, if you don't have a valid US passport, or your name does not match your current name, do not fret, we can still assist. Next on the list would be an original birth certificate issued by your city, town, or the Department of Vital Statistics. Unfortunately, hospital birth certificates or some older birth certificates with the infant photo in the center are not acceptable for Real ID. These were all produced on non-secure paper and cannot be used towards the Real ID federal requirements. That's the reason why we can't accept them. My staff loves to see the older birth certificates with the baby Gerber photo in the middle.
Right, those Gerber baby.
Feature that they had back then, but unfortunately that document can't be used for Real ID.
Okay.
So if you cannot locate your original birth certificate, or you have one from a hospital or the infant photo, you can order one new through Vital Check at www.vitalcheck.com. And that's only if you live too far from the place you were originally born. You can also go back to that entity and get a certified copy of your birth certificate to suffice for Real ID. Now, a certified copy of a birth certificate filed with a state office or vital statistics or equivalent agency in that individual state of birth, these documents are subject to review and approval by trained employees, both at the DMV and AAA. And I wanted to make a note, Diana, that birth abstracts cannot be accepted. A birth abstract is a little document that says on page 53 of this city or town, a birth certificate is on record. That can't be Real ID, and a lot of people have those thinking it's their birth certificate. So if it says abstract of birth or birth abstract, you will have to obtain a certified copy of your birth certificate.
Yeah, this is great. And I always wondered about those Gerber baby photos and
Yes.
what the issue was, but it was non-secure paper. So you just answered a question that I had.
And it's just because of that. If they had secure paper back then, it would not be an issue.
Okay.
Rhode Island and the DMV does an excellent job of listing exactly what you can and cannot bring. And it's located on their website at www.dmv.ri.gov. please make sure you use only that website. There are other websites out there that are not maintained by the state, and they may give incorrect information. So that website again is www.dmv.ri.gov. And they have a Real ID checklist, which is very handy because it lets you know exactly what you can bring in. Now, the final thing, I understand you recently got married, Diana.
Yes, over the summer.
And of course, you had a name change involved with that, correct?
Right,
So
right.
for anyone that's had a name change, if you're using an original birth certificate or a certified copy of your birth certificate and your name differs than what shows on your driver's license today, you must provide all proofs of original name change documents issued by an authorized government agency. Examples would include a court order, a marriage certificate, divorce decree. It's important to note that our staff must see all of the name changes from the original identity document to your current name. It's like putting a puzzle together, so come prepared. And we can always review that over the phone with you. If someone wants to call one of our branches and say, here's my name from my birth certificate document, here it is today, what do I need to show you so I can get a real ID? We'd be more than happy to help you with that, so.
Right. Yes, I went through the experience twice of Real ID myself. Did it initially with my maiden name and then had to bring the marriage certificate back. And I actually, for a moment, made the mistake of thinking because I already had a Real ID, I wouldn't need to show all those documents again. So I said, oh, I'm going to bring them just in case, put them all in a folder. And I'm so glad I did, because I did have to show everything the second time to convert my last name. And so actual name changes, I know we can modify a middle initial to a full middle name in
That's
our
correct.
offices, right, Dave?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but anything other than like a last name, a first name does need to be done through the DMV.
At the DMV, that's correct. And they have appointments available to help our members or customers with that, so.
Wonderful. Okay, so excellent information. And by the way, for all of our viewers, if you have any specific questions, I know many of you probably do, please don't be shy. Throw those into the comments and we will answer any of your specific questions at the end of this. But Dave, you mentioned Social Security, and I understand there was a recent change in respect to that document.
Yes, the Rhode Island DMV has really made this as easy as possible for residents for the state of Rhode Island. Rhode Island recently changed the requirement, whereas you will write your Social Security number on the LI-1 application, instead of having to bring in Social Security card or other proof of Social Security. A lot of people don't know what their Social Security card is, or it was laminated, such as my parents did when I was younger. Cannot be accepted. So Rhode Island looked at it and said, well, the Social Security number actually matches against a database. Therefore, if you write the number on the application, you no longer have to bring in proof of Social Security, such as a Social Security card or a W-2 statement. So they're actually making it easier for Rhode Island residents, and we thank them for that.
Yes, very handy. That's great news. And I believe the third category is proof of residency, which I found this to be probably the easiest because there are a plethora of different documents that they'll accept for that, right?
Exactly. Yes, the third area is proof of residency. So each applicant to apply and be approved for a Real ID must bring in 2 residency documents, such as a valid driver's license, that's number 1, and then something else such as a personal bank check with your name and address on it, a utility bill, a credit card statement, something that has your physical address but no PO boxes. Anything with a PO box cannot be used. Other examples include a mortgage bill, property tax bill, rental or lease agreement, an employment or school document, etc. Again, the Rhode Island DMV has really put together a really handy list, and you can find that at dmv.ri.gov. And there's a Real ID checklist. All the residency documents that you can use are on the back of the page, and there's hundreds of things that you can bring in to meet that requirement. So.
Right, that was so easy. I mean, I used my valid license and my checkbook because I'm one of those ladies that has it in the purse all the time, There's 2 things I carry with me all the time anyway. So Dave, you know this, but prior to COVID, when we were still out and about doing outreach in front of actual humans, we did a lot of Real ID informational seminars with libraries and senior centers, all sorts of community centers. And we would always get the questions about the name changes. So we know that can be tricky for people. I'd love everyone to know that we can definitely, if you give us a call, send us an email, we can walk you through that again. Because I feel like those were the real sticklers. I remember
Yes.
meeting quite a few people who had been named like, Maria Teresa, but their whole life they went by Teresa.
Right.
It came, when they came to, their first job, they used Teresa. So that was what was on their tax documentation. It's not really complicated, and
It did.
some extra paperwork is necessary.
Extra paperwork is necessary. The Real ID Act requires your name to be shown as it is on your identity document. So in the past, my driver's license only had my middle initial. When I do my Real ID, my full middle name is now on my driver's license because that was what was on my identity document. For anyone that has had a name change, marriage, divorce, or simply changed their name, you do need to bring in the extra documents, the originals, the marriage certificate, a court order, divorce decree will be required. Our staff must be able to match up the name from the identity document to what your name is today. So many people have had multiple name changes. So if that's the case, just as I said before, it's like putting together a puzzle. So you want to start off where you were to what you are today and all the name documents in between. And again, we'll be happy to help over the telephone. We can review the documents with you verbally to make sure that you have what you need to meet that requirement.
Right. And you mentioned vitalcheck.com earlier, and that really is a lifesaver for so many people. So VITALCHEK.
Okay, correct.
Little variation on the spelling, but even just for people that don't want to have to stand in a line. And
exactly.
You're born across the country. For a lot of people that they don't really even feel safe traveling right now during the pandemic. So it's
exactly.
Lifesaver. It's a great website. And I know, we always suggest that the best time to convert to a Real ID is through your normal state ID or license renewal period. At that point, there's no extra fee, right?
Correct.
The cost of renewal, that's, regular renewal fee that would be set by the state. But, a fee does apply if you're not in a position where, or if you are in a position that I should say, if you need a Real ID and that renewal phase is not in your near future. So,
right. So in Rhode Island, you're allowed to renew your license up to 3 months before expiration. So if that's the case and you're ready for a Real ID, come on in and there's no additional fees. It's part of your license renewal. If you're not in what's known as renewal cycle, you're more than 3 months out, you can still upgrade to Real ID. It is the cost of a duplicate license, which right now is $27.50. And then the same paperwork is presented, the LI1 form and the documents we explained, we collect $27.50. It doesn't change your license number or expiration date. It actually provides a duplicate license, but now it has the Real ID endorsement on it. So.
Great. Okay. And, I know there have been some changes to the process, to the requirements since 2018, since Rhode Island started doing this. I think a lot of people get a little bit confused if they hear about the process from a friend who's already done it, and then there was a change, or even, a friend maybe in Massachusetts or another state, because the requirements are slightly different state to state. So, we want you to understand that what we're explaining today, everything that Dave's talking through, is specific to Rhode Island. But there are websites that you can go to explain it for all 50 states. There's the information there, the Department of Homeland Security website, right?
Yes, and as you know, both of us have responded to hundreds of emails from members on the Real ID process, also seminars, and to try to help out. And people do get confused on the requirements. And just like you said, you might have heard from a friend that, hey, in Rhode Island, I don't need a social security card, but in Massachusetts, you actually do. So right. It's to look only at the state-run websites. There are other websites out there that they look like a state-run website, but they're not. Most of them end with a .gov. Some do have a .com, but make sure that you at the official state websites to get the correct Real ID information. That way you're prepared for your visit. And as you said, everything we spoke about today is specific to Rhode Island in regards to the requirements. Every state is a little different, so please make sure that you check your own state before going to visit a AAA office if we do it for you there, or your own state agency. And I'd just like to add that all of our branches are following the COVID mandates with social distancing, face coverings, frequent cleaning, and limited capacity to keep both our members safe and our customers at the same time. State of health auditors come out and audit our branches all the time, and we have passing grades across the board, and we're very proud of that. So We're proud that we're able to serve the public during this pandemic, and we want to be there for you in the future as well. So.
Absolutely. Any final, we'll check to see if anyone's asking questions, but any final words of advice?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to explain Real ID. As I said, whenever someone asks me about, it's so confusing with all the requirements. If you literally break it down into the 3 categories and then look at each category holistically, it really is, it's not that bad. And it's just everyone has to reprove their documents, even though they did this many years ago. With the passing of the Real ID Act, everyone's asked to present original documents once again to receive that shiny gold star on your driver's license.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to look for some questions here. And this is a great question. Someone's asking if they can still sign up for membership at this time, probably to make the Real ID process easier. And yeah, absolutely.
You can sign up directly on AAA.com, or feel free to visit any one of our offices and we'll be happy to help you. You can also do it over the phone too.
And I know we've waived the enrollment fees. So
yes, there are certain programs, there's various different membership specials out there. That's the one thing I don't have memorized, sorry. Real ID, I'm an expert on. Membership specials, maybe not so much.
We love our members. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think just being able to go to your local AAA branch, you get to know the staff. They're so friendly and so accommodating, and just really try to make this process easy. And I have to say, you know, I went through the Real ID process once in our AAA branch, once in the Middletown DMV branch, and both were great experiences for me. People could not have been nicer. So don't fear the process.
Yeah. The DMV in Rhode Island is an excellent partner of ours, and we worked hard to make this as seamless as possible, both for every Rhode Island resident, whether you're going to the DMV or at AAA. We appreciate their partnership. They have an incredibly difficult job to maintain all the laws and regulations and the forms and everything else. They've done such a great job of putting the checklist, some online services that they changed due to COVID. They really have done a fantastic job, and I'm proud to be a partner with them. So
absolutely. And I do want to mention, you know, for any community leaders that are watching today, any organizational leaders, if you're interested in having one of us from AAA come out to your agency, to your business, to your even just a fun group of friends, you know, we are more than happy to do that. We're doing a lot of, you know, virtual programs right now. So just visit our website at AAA.com/community, and you can fill out a form and just request many programs. But one of the programs that we're offering that's very popular is just a Real ID workshop. So happy to meet with your group and talk you through it in small groups, large groups, whatever you want. And again, it's AAA.com/reservations, right? Schedule your appointment, for Real ID with one of our branches. Absolutely.
So we're getting a question if the Springfield office in Massachusetts, temporarily Massachusetts office is closed right now. Should be reopened shortly.
Good to know. Okay, great.
And I don't see any other questions.
No, I think it's because you've done a great job, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Knowledgeable. So no, thank you very much. Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
And everyone, like our viewer who is in Massachusetts, if you have any questions about the states outside of Rhode Island, once again, it's www.dhs.gov. That's the Department of Homeland Security that has the information on Real ID for all 50 states. So a great site.
That's correct.
As well.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Diana. All right, take care.
Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.